It's time to join Montana's very own and your voice for agriculture, Talkin' Ag Lane Nordlund, for today's Lanecast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lanecast Ag Podcast in conjunction with the Western Ag Network. It's been a few days since we've done a show, specifically a livestock market recap, but just like many of you, we are busy out here in the countryside this summer, apart from our broadcast duties, but taking care of things out on the ranch as well. But today, let's take a peek at the results from this year's 2024 Superior Livestock Auction Video Royale sale. That was held in Winnemucca, Nevada this past week. Just under 190,000 head of cattle sold this week. We will get into what the trends were, if prices were a bit higher or lower compared to earlier Superior sales this year. But first, we just want to thank our friends at HerdWatch for bringing you today's Lanecast Ag Podcast and these livestock market reports as well. But as we move through the summer of 2024. Of course, I live here in north central Montana. A lot of smoke out in the countryside. No wildfires close to me, but a lot of smoke coming in from those fires. But if you are being impacted by wildfires here this summer, our thoughts are with you, and our thoughts are with all the brave men and women that are out there fighting these blazes and trying to keep our rural communities safe along the way. I just wanted to share some of those comments before we really jump into these prices. But as I mentioned, a big sale there in Winnemucca this week. Not a lot of cattle from Western Ag Network country. Of course, we cover most of the western United States, but Region 2 makes up a lot of our listening and viewing area. But we do have a lot of audience members down in New Mexico and Utah as well that did sell quite a few head here this week. So I'll mention some of these northern tier state results, but again, a lot of Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, New Mexico cattle selling on this Video Royale sale. Now, something that I did find pretty interesting, but I think it goes with the seasonal trend of calf prices when we're contracting here in the late summer, is we saw that feeder steers were mostly $5 to $8 lower on the Video Royale compared to the week in the Rockies sale just a few weeks ago. Feeder heifers in this sale also about $2 to $6 lower. Now, you may be thinking, man, that's quite a big pullback, but that week in the Rockies sale saw feeder steers and heifers $5 to $15 higher. So a little bit of a correction in the market, but it is pretty seasonal when we watch these contracts late in the summer as we move into fall. There's been hundreds of thousands of head of calves already contracted at this point. Prices still remain strong here in the summer of 2024, despite that bit of a pullback in what feeder steers and heifers brought at this past week's sale. And supply, as I mentioned, consisted mostly of southern cattle, 24% coming from the south central region, 9% from the north central region, 4% from the southeast, 1% from the northeast, and 61% from the west. Again, that trend it doesn't really line up. USDA reports versus how Superior breaks up their how they regionalize cattle when they're selling. So USDA has a different standard and labeling of Western cattle. I would say it's mostly southern tier states, Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Louisiana, Arkansas cattle is pretty much how Superior likes to label those. So we will see what all those, the majority of what those cattle sold for. Just a quick glimpse, because I know most of our viewers and listeners are from the West and that northern tier states as well. So I really don't think USDA labels those correctly when they're giving the official report. But Superior Livestock does an excellent recap and breaking down individual sales. It's fun to go through that market report. Visit superiorlivestock.com, look at those, and you can even see what your neighbors got for their steers that way as well. But let's take a quick glance. Let's start off with Wyoming. Not a lot of cattle selling out of Wyoming this past week, but the ones that did, let's start with those heavier yearling weight steers, 9.5 to 1,000 weights, 237 up to 252, 8 to 8.5 weights, 256 to 259, 6 to 6.5 weights, 285 to 292 on the Video Royale sale. Also on the Superior platform, we saw the 9 to 9.5 weight steers, 241 251 to 250, 8 to 849 weight steers, 235 to 245. And I see I didn't put a pound sign behind those steers, so I apologize in my graphics creation, but I'm a little past correcting that at this point. Again, not a lot of Wyoming selling in this Video Royale sale. Of course, we got the Bighorn Classic coming up August 19th through the 23rd there in Sheridan. Catalog deadline has already passed of August 2nd, of course. Video deadline being coming August 9th. But again, that Bighorn Classic sale August 19th through the 23rd. We'll see a lot more Wyoming, Montana, Dakota cattle selling on that. Really a big wrap-up for the Northern Tier cattle for our video consignments here this summer. As I mentioned, a lot of the Southern Tier states sold more cattle before we get to our Colorado, Montana, Nebraska, and Utah prices. Just quickly want to flash up that graphic there. And again, as I mentioned, I forgot to put a pound sign behind the weights. Hopefully that does not upset you too much, but it is what it is. Looking at Texas there, a lot of cattle selling in that region. The 8.5 to 9 weight steers, 239 up to 255. The 7.5 to 8 weights, 242 to 282. Those lighter calves weighing 5 to 5.5, 301 up to 340. Oklahoma, the 9 to 9.5 weights, 237 to 247. 8.5 to 9 weights, 238 to 253. Again, descending from heavier calves to lighter calves. The 6.5 to 7 weights, 276 to 291. And the 5 to 5.5 weights, bringing around $3.32. Not a lot of light calves there from Oklahoma selling. New Mexico sees 8.5 to 9 weight steers this past week, 251 up to 261. 6 to 6.5 weights, 260 to 314. With the 5 to 5.5 weights, 311 to 344. Arizona saw some cattle sell this week as well, with the 7 to 7.5 weights, 251 all the way up to $2.53. The graphic a little off there. The 6 to 6.5 weights, 245 to 288. Again, a lot of cattle coming from that part of the world on that sale as well. Again, a lot of Nevada cattle coming as well. Those full results can be found, of course, at Superior Livestock online, or you can check out westernagnetwork.com, where we also have more of those results as well. Hey, we're going to take a look at more of these regional markets, but first, these words from our friends at HerdWatch.
Less time on paperwork and more time on the things that truly drive your operation. HerdWatch helps large and small cattle producers to easily direct day-to-day management from the palm of their hand. HerdWatch simplifies record keeping and allows you to make better, data-backed decisions on your ranch. Easily track calving and weaning with our free digital calving book and access that information anytime, anywhere. Join over 22,000 producers globally. Visit herdwatch.com or download our app for free. HerdWatch, 10 years simplifying livestock.
Alrighty, returning back here, looking at some more of these regional prices for the Video Royale sale taking place there in Winnemucca, Nevada this past week. Superior Livestock had Colorado steers weighing 9.5 to 1,000, bring 243 up to $2.51. 8.5 to 9 weights, 244 to 286, jumping down to the 5.5 to 6 weights, 314, then going back up there to 6 to 6.5 weights, 285 to 296. Again, prices pulling back just a bit, as I mentioned at the beginning of our report. Those feeder steers about $5 to $8 lower. Feeder heifers trading $2 to $6 lower compared to the Superior week in the Rockies Sale held back in July. As for prices in the Big Sky State, not a lot of cattle selling. A lot more will be reserved for that Bighorn Classic sale coming up here in just a few weeks there in Sheridan. The Superior Livestock steer average for Montana calves, 8 to 8.5 weights, brought 264, with the 5 to 5.5 weights, 333 to 351. Heifers weighing 8.5 to 899, seeing a price at 236. A few more Nebraska cattle selling on that Video Royale sale. The 5.5 to 6 weights, 321 up to 335. The 5 to 5.5, 334 to 359. Heifer calves weighing 7 to 7.5, seeing a price of $2.62. As for the Utah cattle, quite a lot of Utah cattle consigned to this video Royale. The 7 to 7.5 weight steers out of Utah, 262 to 289. 6.5 to 7 weights in that same range, 266 to 289. 6 to 6.5 weights, 278 to 310. Those lighter weight calves weighing 4.5 to 5 weights, $3.29 to $3.35. Heifers out of Utah also weighing 7.5 to 8 weights, 250 to 251. 5.5 to 6 weights, 266 to 288. And those lighter heifer calves weighing 4 to 449, 337 to 349. And I did forget to mention just what the makeup was in terms of the percentage of steer and heifers selling. Again, 100% feeder cattle selling was made up of 60% beef steers, 35% heifers, and we did see a 3% dairy beef steers selling and 2% dairy beef heifer crosses selling as well. But that was pretty much on par for that week in the Rockies Sale. We saw 61% steers selling at the week of the Rockies, 35% selling as well. So right on track with those heifers, a trend that we are seeing. A lot of discussion around heifer retention and a lot of economists studying the reports and cattle on feed reports. Again, we didn't have that July cattle summary report USDA into that, so we couldn't get an in-depth look at what the heifer numbers are out there. But some folks were optimistic that heifer retention I can't talk today. Heifer retention could be taking place, but it just seems that folks are trying to take advantage of these higher prices for both steers and heifers. Not a big signal that herd rebuilding is in fact taking place. Again, it's been hot over the past few weeks, not market-wise, temperature-wise, and I think a lot of folks are seeing that impact. And again, we're continuing to track that, but from everyone that I've talked to, following the economics of it and the reports, not a big factor or not a huge sign, in fact, of herd rebuilding taking place, just because folks have higher interest rates to pay, and we're getting pretty good prices for those heifers as well. But again, friends, that's just a quick look at that Superior Livestock Video Royale sale. Again, we got that Bighorn Classic coming up here in just a few weeks there in Sheridan, Wyoming. The dates of that, August 19th through the 23rd, just want to make sure that my dates were right there. Yeah, we will have more of those results here on the Lanecast Ag Podcast with the Western Ag Network as they go along. And hey, friends, if you haven't done so, make sure and check out all of our social media platforms, whether that be this podcast you're listening or watching on our YouTube channels. Make sure and subscribe, share, and drop some comments there too. Hopefully they're nice, but it's social media land, and not everyone has anything nice to say at the time. But again, I hope everyone is staying safe out there here this summer. It is just it's scary out there with all the grass we do have out in the hills, and all of our friends being impacted by wildfires. Our thoughts are with you. It's just inevitable when we live out here in the West, and just how things are managed out on our public lands and whatnot, that wildfires, when they do happen, they are quite catastrophic. So our thoughts are with everyone being impacted by wildfires here this year, and hope everyone's getting as high a price as they can on these calves through the video sales as well. With that, friends, I don't want to hold you up too much longer. We appreciate you joining us here today. I'm Nordlund. I'll catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lanecast with Talkin' Ag, Lane Nordlund. Don't forget to subscribe to the Lanecast on your Apple or Android devices. We look forward to joining you next time on the Lanecast.